Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the shop. Well, today I got a simple little project for us. It's just a set of access doors inside of a garage. There's some equipment that's inside of a wall, and these doors are going to fit flush to the wall. Not very big, 30 inches wide, 15 inches tall, but a lot of detail to it. We're going to have double doors and some hardware and some hinges, so it'll be a fun project. Let's get started today's video. All right, so we're getting started. We're using some 2" by 2" by 1/8" thick angle iron for this particular project. And like I said, it's 30 inches long and about 15 inches tall. It's a custom size right here. It's not something you can get over the counter. Now, a lot of times I go with a notched method on when I'm doing 45s and then the traditional 45 cuts. So I go both ways, depending on the application, and that's what I'm doing here. In this application for me, this is going to work best. Just take it over to the porta band right here and just slice things up, and you can see how you just cut it from end on either end and then right down the center right here. And when you go to put it together, it fits together pretty good and makes for a good joint. It's all going to be welded up anyway, and we'll be able to just do the grinding and grind things down as we need to. Pretty good method. I like using them both. I'm just going to grab a handful of clamps right here. These are standard armor, and then the fixture clamps right here. Can't have enough. This is go over to the fixture table and just clamp everything down using some fireball squares to get everything nice and square. It doesn't take much. I tell you, just clamp them right down, and once you get them clamped down, everything is perfectly square, and then you can go ahead and weld out. In this case here, I'm going to weld as much as I possibly can while I got everything clamped in place. That way it's not going to move around. Get all the clamps out of the way, and I'll be able to finish up the welding. Operating off the HTP Pro Pulse 220 MTS here, using the MIG mode. Running about 287 inches a minute is what I usually do. And then once I got all that done, I'm going to grind the welds down. Now on the inside right here, this is what's going to be going flush to the wall. So I want to be sure and get everything cleaned up and nice and flat, as this is going to be going up against some drywall, and I want it to fit really good. And of course the outside is going to be showing, so we want to grind that down. And then I made those welds in the very inside corner right there. You can see that all the way around. So there's not much we can do with that. I'm just going to tip it up right here. I'll be able to get my flap disc in there and just clean up any BBs that might happen there in the corner. And then that's all we need to do. And everything's nice and smooth and ready for the next step here. And that's going to be making the doors. Back to some 14 gauge sheet metal here again. I'm using up the sheet that I had in the last project, and just clamping everything down. And you can see I've got a straight edge right there. I'm going to be using my metal cutting skill saw right here to cut these doors. All you really need to do is just have a straight edge like this right here and clamp it right down. And as long as you run that saw right up against its straight edge, you get a nice clean cut. Works pretty good on stuff like this. And I've actually used it cutting some thicker material, 1/4 inch so far, and I haven't had any problem. I'm using that Mercer steel Thunder blade, and it's been really working well for me. All right, so there's the doors. I got them marked, and that's how they're going to fit in there. I'm kind of liking the way I got the right clearance all the way around. Just went to my overhead storage and grabbed some 1/2" angle iron that I have up there. And I'm just going to cut some angle iron braces for the inside around each one of these doors. It's going to add for some added strength on the inside right there to make them kind of rigid. You can just see I'm just cutting these little 45s right here. And something like this, I just used my pencil and just kind of eyeballed it. It's such a small little piece of angle. When you just put it together, it's going to work pretty good. You can see clamping this thing down. You can see what I'm talking about. It's right on the very outside edge, all the way around 3 sides. And you can see this side that's closest to the camera there. I'm off about a 1/2 inch there, and I'm going to leave that piece open. That's what's actually going to be sitting on the center bar on the frame of the door. You'll see that a little bit later. Got everything clamped down. All I really need is some tack welds about every 3, 4, 5 inches apart, whatever it is. And that's going to hold those in. I didn't want to put too much heat into this. I don't want to do any warpage, but that's kind of what it looks like. And everything, stayed, when it's clamped down like this, everything didn't warp at all. There's no deflection. Everything stayed nice and straight, and that's kind of what I was looking for. All right, so far so good. Fit in there just the way I was hoping. And so the next thing I want to do right here is get this center post in. Now you can see I've got a piece of 14/8 gauge sheet metal. That's the same thickness as the door, and this is a piece of half-inch square tubing, and that's what I'm using for the center post. That's sitting down for that 14 gauge thickness, so those doors are flush. That's the idea. I want to have those doors flush to the outside. So with that centerpiece in, then it's time to get the hinges on. Now this is just a piano hinge that I'm using, and I've got some 1/8 inch flat bar stock that I'm putting between the hinge, and that's going to spread them in there against the door and against the inside of the frame. And once I got everything all clamped down in place and know it's not going anywhere, then I'm just going to put some tacks on both the hinge and the frame, and that's going to hold everything in place. And the idea here is to hopefully when this is all done and I flip this around, that everything is nice and flat. That's what I'm hoping for. There's really no way for me checking it. I'm just relying on how I've got everything clamped down here. But you can just see that's all I really need is just some little spot welds in there. I'm going to repeat the process here on this side right here, and hopefully when I flip this thing around, everything is just the way I was wanting it and nice and flat. And there it is. I'm pretty happy with that. That worked out pretty good. All right, so the last thing I want to get done here is make a set of latches for this. Now, because this is a custom door and I've got this center post in here, I went back and forth and trying to figure out what it is I'm going to do, but I came up with just an idea, and I'm just kind of hoping this is going to work. Just went over to my scrap area right there. This is why you hang on to all this stuff. You can just see I got a little bit of everything, and I'm going to be able to put something together here that's going to work. I got a piece of, it's like 3/8 round bar stock that I found. And so what I'm going to do is I need to take about 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches right here and turn it down to 1/4 inch. I'm going to do this. I have enough bar stock here in the chuck that I'll be able to get both sides from this one piece. So I'm turning it down right here in the 42 Atlas. I'm not, I've said this before, I'm not a machinist. This little lathe has just served me well for everything that I need to do with it. And I get by, so far, pretty good with it. Things aren't perfect, but you know what? They seem to work. All right, I got that side done, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn the other side down right here. I start by just putting a little facing off and then just turning it down. All I really needed was just a couple of passes right here. I took a couple of bigger passes on the second side to get it right down. And there, that fit pretty good. All right, so I just went over to the vise, and you can see that's what I need to do. And I need to put, some threads on this. So I had a really hard time trying to get started with this. When you don't do this every single day, you have to kind of figure things out. And man, I fought this for about 15 minutes before I realized maybe I should just grind a little bit of a taper on the edge to help this tap get started, or this die, I should say. Anyways, after I put a taper on it, once I got it started, it was no problem. I just ran it through there, and was able to cut a thread pretty good. Now, this is some cold rolled material. It might be just a little bit harder than just hot rolled. I'm not certain. They tell me it is a little bit, but anyways, that nut fits on there pretty good. You can see I didn't run it all the way down to the very end right there. It doesn't need to, because I'm not going to need threads all the way at the very end right there. But so I learned my lesson on this. On the other side, I was able to taper it, and that worked out much better. I was able to get that on there and get it done. All right, so I'm going to take this over to the port band and just cut it to the right length. Just a little side note, hey, if you're cutting some round bar stock, it'd be a great idea to have a vise like this or some way to clamp it down, because if you don't, I think you're going to find out bad things are going to happen. I learned the hard way. So I've got this little machinist vise that I use for small stuff like this, and it's worked out pretty good for me. This is just some round tubing that I had. I'm going to be using this for a sleeve on the back side. And then I've got some flat bar stock right here that I'm going to be using for the handle and the latch part on the back. The front part's about 1.75 inches there. The back is around 3/4 inch. I just cut the pieces that I needed right there and took them over to the Burr King and shaped them up and deburred them a little bit. All right, so I've got to do a little bit of TIG welding right here, so I'm just grinding off the mill scale.
when you got clean metal to clean metal, it always works better than that mill scale. You fight it a little bit, especially TIG welding, and so it wasn't a big deal to get that cleaned off. Again, there's not a lot, just a little bit around the outside right here is all I wanted to do. And this is the back part, the latch. You know, I just had, like I said, I had this idea in my head. I'm thinking this is going to work, and so far so good. It's coming together. I just needed to drill a hole here. This is a fractional size, a 16th bigger than a quarter. I've got the quarter there, and I wanted to be sure that it slides right over. And before I did the final assembly, just took these small little pieces over the Burger King, got them cleaned up a little bit. All right, it's assembly time right here. So this is my plan. It goes through, put the sleeve on, put that little latch in the back with a nut, and that's hopefully is going to hold it right in there. Same thing on the other side. And then once I got everything all adjusted the way it should be and everything was working really good, I just tack welded the nut to the latch part in the back, and that worked out really good. So, okay, so it was a good little project for me. Turned out just the way I was hoping it would. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more video. And also check out my website at JIMBO'sGarage.com for your latest torch lead holders, MIG, TIG, stick, and angle grinders. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook. Thanks for watching. See you guys next week.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.